Hello and welcome to another video from me, the History Tutor, and today we're going to be looking at the site question for the AQA Elizabeth topic, and we're going to be looking at the Globe Theatre. So in this video we're going to be going over how to do a top grade answer for the AQA site question for Elizabeth exam, as I said. It's on the Globe Theatre. So we're going to have to recap our knowledge in detail. Now, this knowledge is going to have to be more than just a mere textbook or a revision page. We're going to have to refer to the AQA guidance. They give information in detail of what they expect students to know. So take a look at my revision video on Globe Theatre. That's got all the key facts from the AQA specification and guidance, so you can revise your knowledge in detail, or take a look at my revision guide, which again has all the key information and knowledge you need to be able to be successful in this paper. So once you've read your knowledge, come back to me and we'll test your knowledge, and then we'll go through how to answer a question in detail to gain a top grade answer. Okay, so firstly, let's test your knowledge with a quick quiz. So here is our quiz, and there's 10 questions here to just test your understanding of the Globe Theatre topic. And you can see there the question we're going to be looking through in today's lesson, and more on that in a moment. So do have a look through these questions, pause the video and see which you can answer. And if you've got my revision guide, you can fill in the answers in the revision guide to test your understanding. And if you want to pause, again, take an opportunity to look through your notes, then do so. Okay, so here are the answers then. So next, we've got question number one. Other than the Globe Theatre, name 3 theatres built in London in the Elizabethan times. Well, we had the Theatre, which more of later on. The Red Lion, the Curtain, the Rose are all theatres of importance. And obviously, the Rose was a bit of a competitor to the Globe in the same sort of location, and the Theatre was almost sort of a predecessor to the Globe. Who funded and built the theatre? So James Burbage, and obviously he's important as well in the story of the Globe Theatre as well. So give 2 reasons why London Council did not want theatres in their cities. Well, lots of reasons, from disease spreading, and obviously the theatres were closed in the early 1590s due to lots of disease. Criminal activity, so in large crowds, people could be pickpocketing or other things of a criminal nature. Also, in the criminal idea, there was this idea that conspiracies and plots could form in the large crowds in the pit. They could form a little circle and be plotting away. Plays were seen as lies, so Puritans were very much against plays because it's seen as people were literally lying on stage and it was deceiving people with the story. They liked religious plays rather than made-up plays. Just generally another Puritan idea, plays were a distraction away from prayer and sort of hard work and those Puritan ideas. So what was the law that meant nobles, and when was the law passed that meant nobles and barons had to lead a theatre company? So in 1572, a law was passed that barons had to lead the theatre company, and this was obviously about the problems above. So disease and conspiracy and crime. So if a baron or a lord was leading a theatre company, then it could help control some of those problems. Name the type of land that a theatre could be built on. So the London City Council did not allow theatres to be built within its city walls, and so theatres was only built on free land where there was allowed to be a theatre built, and these lands were called liberties, and they were not controlled by the council. So obviously the Globe Theatre was eventually built quite near the end of our course in 1599, near the end of 1599, after the theatre, the previous incarnation of the Globe, its tenancy agreement had run out on its liberty, and so James Burbage and the Lord Chamberlain's men decided to move the theatre. And obviously, question 7, who were the theatre company? The Lord Chamberlain's men. Clearly, the Lord Chamberlain was the noble in charge of the theatre company. Okay, the playwright of Lord Chamberlain's Men, of course, was William Shakespeare. Then the famous actor of Lord Chamberlain's Men, well, you got Richard Burbage, who is James Burbage's son. And give one way the theatre company represented the great chain of being. Well, it's quite important if you want to think about the themes of equality within the theatre. So all people went to the theatre. It was a great change in entertainment. Entertainment before had been a poor person's entertainment and a rich person's entertainment. Poor person might go to gambling or like bear baiting or cockerel fighting, whereas a rich person might have a banquet and have entertainment in their banqueting hall. Okay, a rich person might have a theatre company come and perform in their hall, whereas a poor person might go to some entertainment set up in a village green or a town square, and they'll then give money to that entertainment. But the theatre brought everyone together. So the rich, yes, were sat in the galleries, and the poor were in the pit, but everyone was together. And the great chain of being is being shown here because the poor people at the bottom and the rich are towards the top. So there very much is this chain of being and this sort of hierarchy of society within the theatre. Now, before we go on, let me just tell you a little bit about my videos and my revision guides. So I make revision guides to go alongside these videos. There's lots of them, and all of them have brilliant revision notes that are nice, concise, and ready for you to revise in a very easy way. And they're packed full of these videos. Not all these videos are available on YouTube. You can only get the full range of them by buying the revision guides. And the revision guides also have pages with quizzes and tasks, and also pages to go alongside these videos so you can write out your answers and practice your answers. So do have a look at the link to my Amazon page and have a look at my revision guides. They'll be a great help to you being successful in your GCSE exams. Okay, so back to this question now. So we've got our question, which is entertainment for all was the main consequence of the development of the Elizabethan theatre. How far does the study of the Globe Theatre support this statement? Explain your answer, and you should refer to the Globe Theatre and your contextual knowledge. So what does that mean? Okay, what do we need to do to complete this question correctly? So you'll notice in your book you have a little task about listing the skills and the criteria you need to do to be successful. So in this case, we're sort of thinking, well, what is the mark scheme? What do we need to do to be successful? How many paragraphs are we going to write? How do we talk about the Globe Theatre? What are the skills we need to show? So have a think now yourself, pause me and have a think. What are the skills you think you need to show to be successful in this question? Okay, got some ideas? So I think these are the following things. Now, it's 16 marks, so that means you need 3 paragraphs in conclusion. You need to say more and write more than you do for the 8 markers. You need to think about causes or consequences for this type of question on the site study. In this case, it is more a consequence question. It says the main consequence of development of Elizabethan theatres was entertainment. So it's a consequence question. So we've got to focus on those. We've got to argue the topic in the question and then some other topics. It gives us entertainment for all was the main consequence. We then probably need to talk about 2 other consequences. We've talked about in other videos how to do a peel paragraph, so we're going to argue with that. We need to make sure we include lots of information and evidence. So we're going to need evidence about the Globe Theatre, maybe other theatres, maybe other types of entertainment, maybe about how it brings everyone together, or other factors. And at the end, we need to conclude how far you agree with the statement. Okay, so those should be our simple ideas to follow. So what about making a plan for this answer then? So in your revision guide and on the screen here, we can see 3 boxes. So what do you think would be 3 good plans? So I've given you entertainment for all. What do you think would be a good argument 2 and a good argument 3? So maybe pause me and add some ideas in. What do you think would be some good arguments? Think back to your notes on the impact and consequences of the theatre on society, on politics. What ideas can you think of? Okay, so here's my ideas. I've gone for the nobles gained the Queen's favour as my second argument. And you could link to the wider Golden Age for maybe a third argument, particularly like money and wealth perhaps in there as well within that Golden Age idea. So again, now have a look through the notes in your revision guide or on the revision video and see if you can list some ideas and list some things you could talk about in your plan for entertainment for all. The nobles gained the Queen's favour and helped develop the Golden Age. Now remember, we're going to be thinking about, an idea of how far does this study support this. So we might want a little bit of a yes and no arguments in there. So positive and negatives could be good to think about in your plan as well. Okay, so take a pause and give your ideas now. Okay, so I've gone for the following. So entertainment for all. So we could talk about how firstly entertainment before the theatres was obviously quite separated. It was quite disparate, as I talked about in the quiz. Poor people had more gambling and public inns and public shows in the village greens, whereas the rich had more shows in their banqueting halls and in their mansions. In the theatre, obviously, all people can attend. Obviously, the poor people are in the pit paying maybe a penny, whereas the rich maybe 4p or 6p as they go up the galleries. And of course, you've got the Lord's balcony as well. It was very popular, so 20,000 people a week. So it's a good proportion of the population of London, maybe up to 10% of the population of London going to theatres. However, it wasn't popular with everyone. So it wasn't entertainment for all. Puritans were quite strict. The London City Council didn't agree with it. So that might suggest it's not entertainment for all. Argument 2, the nobles gained the Queen's favour. So from 1572, barons of the realm had to be in charge of a theatre company. So this is a chance for the lords to gain favour with the Queen. The Queen really liked to have theatre shows. She'd request them to have private performances in her own sort of Christmas celebration, her own palaces. So think to Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night. That was clearly for the 12th night of Christmas, and it was to be written for the Queen to be shown for her. So people in the nobility would set up theatre companies. So Leicester in the 1570s, 1580s, when he was trying to marry the Queen, obviously one of his ways of showing off the Queen was setting up a theatre company. Obviously Lord Chamberlain, Lord Admiral, even the King's Men, when the Queen died, King James had the King's Men. So there were lots and lots of nobles who set up theatre companies for the prestige of it, and they could impress people in society and make some money on the side of it, because there was quite a lot of money in theatres. So obviously help the Golden Age maybe linked to money as well. So obviously we've got a developing literature as one of the important consequences, Shakespeare's plays, and he would be good at writing all types of plays, and the Globe in particular was quite significant for the amount of different types of plays it had. So some theatres might have just been famous for one particular type of play, whereas the Globe was famous for all types of plays. Shakespeare could write tragedies, histories, and comedies, so we're good for all types of plays. So obviously there's a lot of wealth in the theatre, and because 20,000 people going a week, so that money could then be spent on other things in the Golden Age, and the continuing idea of literature, arts, fashion, and it became very fashionable to go to the theatre. However, of course, the poor couldn't share in this wealth and Golden Age quite so much. Yes, they could go to theatre, but maybe they couldn't get involved in reading books and sharing in the wealth of the theatre. Okay, so before we write our answer, let's think about obviously the skills we need to show. So we talk about writing a point, evidence, explain, and a wider link idea. And this is obviously shown within the mark scheme when you sort of break down the mark scheme into sort of basic skills. So only giving points is going to get very low marks, 1 to 3 marks. Supportive points with knowledge about the theatre and the Globe Theatre, 4 to 7 marks. Obviously, the more paragraphs you've supported, the more marks you get. And then once you start explaining, if we've given a range of ideas, but we've explained one of them really well, we can get 8 to 9 marks. Okay, so we need to have given a range of ideas and then explained one of them really well to get 8 to 9 marks, not just given one idea. You explain a range of factors, so we could have explained 3 ideas, and that might get us up to 12 marks. So you can imagine 3 really good paragraphs, possibly 12 marks. If we start then evaluating and saying, entertainment for all was not the most important, and gives an explanation, and we start comparing entertainment for all to other factors, then we're starting to draw out our conclusion through an evaluation. That's where we're going to get 13 to 16 marks. So what's the answer going to look like in terms of a appeal paragraph? So we've looked at this sort of idea before in other videos. So it's quite simple. Make a point with a because. Okay, set up an argument. It's so important in your first sentence to set an argument up. If you're just saying Globe Theatre was built because of entertainment for all, that's quite limited. Okay, try and say some more, create more of an argument. So first statement is mostly correct, or you could say partly correct. As a main consequence, Globe Theatre was entertainment for all because, try and set up an argument. Okay, then support that with some evidence. Because you've given more of an argument, it should link neatly to some evidence. You could choose at this stage to talk about the Globe Theatre or just theatres in general. So this shows entertainment for all was the main consequence of development of theatres because. So explaining, again, in your explanation, it could be, if you've not really talked about Globe Theatre in your evidence, you should really talk about the Globe Theatre when explaining, and vice versa. So you need to have some sort of entertainment knowledge in there and probably some knowledge about the Globe Theatre. Then we're doing a wider link. If we think entertainment was very important, try and give a second idea about why entertainment was very important. If you don't think it was very important, maybe give a weakness of it. Maybe how the Globe Theatre does not show the importance of entertainment for all. So let's have a go at writing this then. So let's have a go firstly at writing our first sentence. Okay, so you've got your revision guides, so filling in your answer. How are you going to make an argument about the first sentence? If you get a little bit stuck, obviously I will show you an idea in a moment. Okay, away you go, write your answer. Okay, so here is my response then. So this is how I would set it out. So firstly, the statement is mostly correct, as the main consequence of the Elizabethan theatre was entertainment for all, because the theatres allowed all people to watch plays, and this changed Tudor entertainment. Okay, so I'm going that the idea of changing Tudor entertainment gives me something to hang my argument around. Entertainment for all sort of gets stuck a little bit straight away, but if I start talking about Tudor entertainment in a wider sense, I've got more to talk about. So what would be a good example to back this up? Or maybe you've got your own very good point. So think of an example that's going to back up your argument. Pause me and add in some facts. Okay, so here's what I've gone for. So I've got my point, and I've said, for example, the Globe Theatre could fit around 1,000 people in the pit, paying 1p to stand to watch a play, and around 2,000 could be in the galleries. This means, and then I want to explain it. Okay, so I've got the idea of entertainment for all. I've got that idea of lots of people in the Globe Theatre. Pretty straightforward example to give. So this means the Globe Theatre shows entertainment for all because or as. Okay, so now can we give some further knowledge to really back up this is showing entertainment for all? Okay, so pause me and away you go. Okay, so here's my next idea then. So I've built on this now. So this means the Globe Theatre shows entertainment for all as it helped to change entertainment to be inclusive. Before the theatre, the poor went to gambling events like bear baiting or watched players perform in the village green or in a public house, whilst the rich attended banquets and dances. The development of theatre meant that all people in society could attend the same event and be entertained in the same way. Okay, so we've got that idea. So is there furthermore? So I've gone, it's very important. Maybe if you've gone partly in your idea, you could give a however. So we need to think about the next step now. Can we think about how entertainment for all is more important or less important? So pause me and add your idea. So here's my idea. So furthermore, the theatre was popular with 20,000 attending every week. This was up to 10% of the population of London. Globe Theatre supports this as the Lord Chamberlain's men was very popular and built Globe Theatre to replace the theatre that closed down at the end of 1599. And I could go on to say about other theatres, could be supported, like the Rose, etc., could all be supported because of entertainment for all was very popular. Okay, so there's potentially a first paragraph. So what about a second paragraph? So I'm not going to talk you through this one quite so much detail. Here's a writing frame. So pause me and sort of give some ideas then about this one. So we've got nobles gained the Queen's favour. So, you might be thinking about the ideas of impressing the Queen, trying to, gain favour. If you impress the Queen, you might get more monopolies, more houses, more things out of it. So have a think about how they might gain favour of the Queen as an argument and add some more ideas. Okay, so pause me and write your second paragraph. Okay, so here's my idea then for the second paragraph. So the full paragraph. So secondly, a quite important consequence of the development of Elizabethan theatres was that the nobles gained the Queen's favour because it led to nobles developing more power by impressing the Queen. So they could gain more out of it. I've gone that it's only quite important. Okay, so, you could go that it's very important because obviously the theatre companies did need the nobles, but does that necessarily mean a consequence, or is that more of a sort of cause of the theatre? Got a sort of question there to answer. So for example, the Globe Theatre, Lord Chamberlain was the patron of the players. Before this, Leicester had been a patron of the company. This shows that gaining the Queen's favour was an important consequence of the development of theatres because these nobles hoped that the Queen would employ their companies and would be impressed, companies of players I mean there, For instance, George Carey was made a Knight of the Garter in 1597, shortly after continuing the Lord Chamberlain's men after the death of his father. Added this, Leicester may have led a company to impress the Queen as he wished to marry her. However, favours to the nobility is less important as an impact as it limited to maybe 10 or 15 people that had theatre companies, so very limited impact for the whole of society. Therefore, it's far less important than entertainment at all, as it impacted. Obviously, this idea impacted a lot fewer people. So, a simple evaluation and a comparison then to entertainment for all. So finally, our last paragraph then. So this one's about the golden age. Okay, and you might be thinking about perhaps it promotes literature, fashion, exploration, maybe, and sort of idea of history, poetry. Think about Shakespeare's history plays and poems and things like that might be something to consider. So pause me and give this one a go. Here's my final paragraph. So finally, a very important consequence of the development of theatres was the support for the Golden Age, because theatres promoted the great plays, literature and fashions of the Elizabethan age. For example, the Globe Theatre Lord Chamberlain's men showcased the plays of Shakespeare and the great acting of Burbage. So a simple example there, linking to our main characters. This shows promoting the Golden Age was an important consequence of theatres, as the Globe performed great plays like Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. There were big hits and made Shakespeare famous. This developed the Golden Age as people went to theatre for great plays, and this led to a great development of the quality of literature from religious plays in the pre-1570s to great comedies, histories and tragedies being performed at the Globe. So there's an expansion of our literature because of plays. Furthermore, the Globe promoted the Golden Age. People gained great wealth, like Lord Chamberlain, and all the players in the Globe and Lord Chamberlain's men gaining 10% of the profits. And obviously they could then make money from these sellout performances in front of 3,000 people. This wealth led to more people having the money to buy fashionable goods, better quality homes and high quality art. This helped obviously develop a wider golden age. So then we're just left with a conclusion. So in this case, you just need to conclude, give a judgment. So how much do you agree with the statement, and back that up with your reasons that are clear in your argument. If you've already given wider links in your paragraphs and you've said furthermore and however, then your evaluation should pretty much be done already. It's just about giving a clear 2 or 3 sentence judgment at the end. Okay, so if you want to find out how to answer some other questions, I have cause questions in my revision guide with videos linked in there. So if you want to find out a bit more about how to answer some other questions, then do look up my revision guide and find out a little bit more. Well, I hope you found the video useful and it gave you a great idea about how to answer the Globe Theatre question. As I said, if you want to see another example of one, then look at my revision guide where I have a causes question discussed in detail there as well. Okay, but otherwise do subscribe and do look up my other videos, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.